All right, we're back. It is 40 minutes past the hour. Got my glasses up here so I can see. And so far, so good in terms of no major thunderstorms this afternoon. But we're going to probably have a great day today because, why? Because we are really kicking off our series. We're kind of backing into it. But over the next several weeks, we'll have a chance to introduce to you many of the fine men and women who have been praying about in some aspects, been thinking about in others, and they are offering themselves to step forward in public service. And so for those of you that have been long-term listeners to Drive Time, you know that during the season of not only the primary and major elections, we have a chance to talk with some of our local candidates, and we're going to do that today. Well, by the time the Florida legislature got completed with all of the rewrites right now here in Tampa, District number 13, I should say more so in St. Petersburg to be more accurate. There's a congressional race that's going to be up, and there is a Republican contest in that race, of course, for U.S. Congressional District 13. With me in studio this afternoon is one of the men who would like to be your next congressman from District 13. His name is Darren Ayres, and he's with us this afternoon. And Darren, it's good to have you in studio, and good that we can finally get a chance to chat a little bit.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate you having me in, and thank you so much to your listeners that are out there that are plugged in, involved, and are tuned in to the upcoming elections.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you very much for offering yourself for service, because a lot of people think that being in public service is just sort of some easy situation. It's not, with all the different constituency groups out there, and I appreciate your running. Now, in a moment, I want to talk a little bit about your background, but first, it's kind of an obvious question, and that is, you are running in a race for someone who has been an extremely long-term Republican congressman here in our area. There's got to be some motivation as to, and I know you're a Christian, so you've prayed through this. I know there's some motivation on why you feel that now is the time for you to offer your service. Walk us through that decision.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Well, I think like many of your listeners, for the last several years, I've been looking and wondering why problems aren't getting fixed. They always talk about, our elected representatives continuously talk about problems, but they're not getting fixed. And I'm just kind of gotten tired of it, like a lot of them have. I'm tired, actually, frankly, of just being lied to by our representatives that are out there. Now, I'm not suggesting that Bill Young has lied to us. I'm not suggesting that at all. But that's what got me looking towards the political realm and getting involved as elected representative was I'm a big boy. I can handle the truth. They can give that to me, and I can sort it all out and make kind of those decisions. I don't need them to filter what I do here and what I don't here. I kind of see that's out there. So as over the last year and a half, I have talked with the voters in Pinellas County, what I have discovered from the vast majority of those who I speak with is that they appreciate the work that Congressman Young has done over the last 42 years, and they're ready to offer him a very gracious retirement and say, thank you for all your years. Now let's begin to look forward to the next candidate. Some of them, quite frankly, had been looking for another candidate for some time, and nobody would run in the primary. Nobody was involved. So when I tell them I'm running, I tell them about my business background, having owned, Trish and I having owned 3 successful mom and pops.
Trish being your wife?
Trish being my
and
wife.
You have 2 children?
Have 2 boys and 5 grandchildren. I better get that
they're not little
straight.
Boys anymore either,
No, my little boys aren't. In fact, my oldest one is flying airplanes for the Air Force Reserve right here at MacDill Air Force Base.
A KC-135.
Oh, the airplane's older than he is, but
he wants some of them new planes down here, doesn't he?
He does.
So do I. Working hard for that.
He is, and he's out there doing that and is really looking forward to that opportunity.
Now, let's go back. I want to talk about your background, because he's not the only one that we would honor today with his military service, but we want to talk about your service as well. But you go all the way back out to what we call the flyover states. You were born in Kansas City, and at a young age, your family moved to Arkansas, and you were on the farm. Tell us about those real Americana roots.
Well, that's what it was. When I was 11, we moved to the farm in Arkansas, which was where my mother was raised, and it was a little 40-acre cattle and poultry farm. And we really learned the basics of money, what it's worth. Very, very seldom did we have money, so we had to really watch over that very closely. We worked hard. We let our yes be yes and our no be no. Our
Amen.
Word was our bond in that time and where we were. We helped our neighbors out. We lived within our budgets. just growing up on that farm and in that really built and honed the values that I have today.
Now, as you grew up, you were also very resourceful individually, but you have quite a military background yourself, and you also have some strong feelings about the future leaders of this country and whether they do or they don't, or they have or they haven't had any kind of military experience. Walk us through, because you retired during one round and didn't have enough. You decided to jump back in, so walk us through that part of your life story.
Oh, I'd be happy to. I've got over 17 years now, both in the active Air Force and now in the Florida Army National Guard. And I began that journey in 1980. I met my wife. She was active Air Force as well. I met her in 1981. We were married in 1982. She retired last year with 33 years of service in the active Air Force, the Air Guard, and the Air Force Reserve. So I did 11 years, both in the enlisted ranks and in the commission ranks, finished my degree off-duty, through off-duty education in management. And then when 1992 rolled around and the huge drawdown was going on in the military, I saw that as the opportunity to leave and to get involved in full-time ministry. Had already a year earlier had answered a call to vocational ministry, was kind of doing it bivocationally, had planted a new church in South Georgia just outside Moody Air Force Base.
Amen.
And we really reached out primarily to the multiracial military families. Because as much as, churches like to believe in good old South Georgia that they're open to everybody, sometimes multiracial military families didn't feel that welcome. But this church we planted, and we really started it with that kind of a congregation, and it's still going strong today. It's a great, wonderful gospel preaching church in South Georgia.
Now we're talking, of course, to Darren Ayres, and he's running to be your next congressman from U.S. Congressional District 13, and he is going head-to-head with Bill Young coming up on the August the 14th primary. Now, you were in the Air Force. Your wife retired after 33 years. You've been called to the ministry. You've been pastoring. But something happened, and you went back here in Florida to serve again. Walk us through that.
That's correct. Back in 1997, I began reading about young chaplains coming out of the war in Iraq that were really struggling. Many of them questioning their faith even from the things that they saw and the things they had to deal with. And so I looked at it and said, I'm at a perfect time in my life if I can get back in to go in and not only help the young troops, but also to help the young chaplains. So at the ripe young age of 49, the Army National Guard accepted me. They gave me the wrong degree waiver and the being a little bit old waiver for the military and a couple of things, and it was really God's work.
They waved at you going by, right?
That was it. It was really God's work to get me back in. And so in 2008, I came back into the Army National Guard as a chaplain. And I have had the greatest time in ministry in the last 4 years than I probably did in the 14 prior to that. Young soldiers, men and women, they're fantastic. They're searching, they're reaching, and they're looking for somebody they can trust who maybe has a little gray hair and a little experience behind them. And so I've been able to reach into that, and it's been a fantastic time. And
so now you're here and you want to serve. Tell us how we made that we talked about the fact that you've seen some inconsistencies with people in public service around the country, and it's time to make a difference. What do you think was the single most element as you were praying through this, making a decision that, yes, it's time for me to step up, I'm going to run for the U.S. Congress?
Well, I think for the most part, and there's several things that are up there pretty close to the top. There's the expanding deficit, there's the health care issues. But I think, probably right on top of that has been the changing morals in our society, the changing morals. And who is going to establish the moral basis for our nation? And for all of our history, for the most part, it's been the Judeo-Christian values that have been established for this nation. And we're in a battle today as to who is going to do that for the future. Is it going to be just society and public opinion?
Or if it's going to be done.
Or if it's going to be done. Who's going to establish? And I believe in the aspect of absolute truth. There are some things that are right all the time, regardless of how many people think they're not. Some things that are wrong all the time, regardless of how many people say they aren't. And I think we find that through Scripture, and it's just pretty understandable, at least to me, and to most of the people, quite frankly, that I talk to that agree with that as well. So we're running with a theme of restoring trust. And in fact, that's one of the URLs to my website. You can go to restoringtrust.org, restoringtrust.org. Using that, you don't have to try to spell my last name, so it works out pretty well. Go to that website. You can find out a little more about me, what my values are, what's there. And for those people who'd like to get involved and help to financially support the campaign as well, they can go there. If they need to use a credit card, go to restoringtrust.org and press the donate button. We need help from the Christian community. It's time the Christians stand up and said, kind of like Tony Evans did at the Southern Baptist Convention a couple of years ago. So we don't need to be ashamed of who we are. We need to be involved in the process. I've read the end of the book, and we win. So while we might be struggling through a battle right now, we still need to stand up and be proud to say, I'm a Christian, here's what I stand for, and I need the other Christians, I invite them to get involved in this campaign. Quite frankly, 3 years ago, I was one of those guys who was praying for somebody with the kind of values that I wanted to stand up and run. Get involved, to do it. I was watching and watching. Nobody was really standing up to step into that gap. And that's when it just kind of came to me through just a sense of the Lord. It was like, well, why not you? Why not you? I prepared you in your owning and operating small businesses. I brought you through the military. I've taught you how to stand up in front of a group of people and speak. I've given you those values that are American values. Why not you? And so here I am kind of getting out of the boat, a lot like Peter did. The disciples probably fussed about his lack of faith when he began to sink, took his eyes off the Christ. But Peter got out of the boat. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've done. I've gotten out of the boat, and now I'm looking for those folks out there to get involved in support.
Darren Ayres, let's drill down a little bit. By the way, you're listening to Darren Ayres. He's a candidate for the United States Congress, District 13, primarily. That's the district right there in Pinellas County. And he and Bill Young will be vying for the Republican nomination, which we got early balloting. Absentee ballots are going out soon. And we also have early voting going to be happening soon. And so we want to make sure that you are well informed. What is it going to take? I mean, you're going up a 42-year veteran member of Congress. Where we just had a segment with William March about the tremendous amount of money that's going into all campaigns. So this is unique to your campaign. Let's drill down for just a minute or so with the time we have left. How important is it for those who have begun to hear what you have to say? We're going to have you on the next 3 or 4 weeks to further your message. But if folks, particularly you're reaching out to men and women of the book, and that is the book being the Bible, and Christians, if Christians out there who are really looking to have this alternative, how can they get involved, and how important for you to have people helping you go door to door, people helping you to stuff envelopes, how people to raise some money for you? Walk through this process, because you have quite a challenge ahead of you, don't you?
Yes, we do. And all of those things you mentioned are very important. And I'm learning every day new things and how much more important they are. This is my first jump into a political arena, if you want to call it that. So I'm still learning every day. But yes, we have lots of opportunities for volunteers. I've learned that there's 2 ways that you can get in and win a race. One's have lots of money. The others have lots of grassroots volunteers. That's where we would like
nice to have both, too.
Nice to have both, if they're available. Nice to have both. We really have a lot of volunteers now, and we can use more. Doing the things that you've just talked about, putting the labels on, moving that out. You can go to my webpage again at restoringtrust.org, and you can click on the volunteer tab and let us know what you'd like to do. Or call the office at 727-288-1382. We'd love your money to help print things to get in people's hands. I'm convinced that people are looking for somebody new. They're looking for somebody with the values and the experience that I bring to this race. They just need to know that I'm out there. And your listeners can certainly help that happen by donating of their resources, whether it's time, money, telling their neighbors, putting up a sign. And I really appreciate this opportunity.
Time, treasure, and talents. And by the way, probably the first time I've mentioned it during this season, these campaigns are very excellent opportunities. And, of course, we'll have dozens of campaigns to probably choose from. But these campaigns are an excellent source for you to allow your children or grandchildren to learn a real-life lesson in civics.
Yes.
A real-life lesson in involvement. And what I'm saying is, of course, we're not talking about My 6-year-old might be great to stay with his mom or dad real close and hold a sign. You wouldn't want him stuffing envelopes. But depending on the appropriate age, this is an excellent opportunity. And I think every Christian family out there, it would be good for you to pray and select a candidate. Select a candidate that you choose, because we help get you informed here. I may have some recommendations, but I always tell you it's up to you to pray, and it's not what Bill Bunkley says, it's what God is telling you.
Yes.
But the point is, this is an opportunity. I would pick a candidate to get out with your family, whether it's a few hours on a Saturday or on a Tuesday or a Thursday evening, to get out and maybe walk, hold some signs, do some stuffing of envelopes in a campaign headquarters. This is an excellent opportunity to find out what real politics 101 is about, because you're not going to learn that in a university. It's not going to be part of politics 101 at any school, because they don't tell you what you really need to know and what's happening. And of course, you have a candidate with Darren Ayres. You hear his heart, you hear his openness to the gospel, former military chaplain. This is one of those probably unique places that if you're in Pinellas County and if you'd like to plug in, it'd be a great place to do that. Now, once again, we're talking with Darren Ayres. He's taking on Bill Young in the Republican primary coming up on August the 14th, which means that those of you in Pinellas County, you're going to be either those of you that are already ordered up your absentee ballots, those are coming in. You've got early voting, and of course the primary election coming on the 14th, and so you're going to have to get prepared. So once again, Darren, we're going to have you back in the next few weeks. But if someone wanted to find out more first about your candidacy, what is? Let's start first with let's give that website out once again.
It's restoringtrust.org. Restoringtrust.org. Or they could search on Facebook for Darren Ayres for Congress. I have a Facebook page that's on there as well. Into those, our location is right next to Indian Rocks Baptist Church off of Walsingham Boulevard, in the public shopping centers where our office is. If you'd like to drop a check off rather than use a credit card, we welcome that. Come by. We're there pretty much from 9 to 5.
And what is the phone number again? Give that a couple times.
727-288-1382. 727-288-1382. Vote Ayres in August. Thank you, Bill.
And by the way, if you want to drill down and know more about Darren Ayres and what his platform is, we've got a lot of things to talk about. We'll talk about the Affordable Care Act. We'll talk about balancing the federal government as well as the deficit. We'll also talk more about the Judeo-Christian values that's so close to him. A lot to talk about. We'll cover that in days ahead, but give him a call, drill down. Darren Ayres, good to have you with us. Look forward to having you back next week.
Thank you, Bill.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
It's a quick time out. I'm Bill Bunkley. This is Drive Time. When I come back during next hour, we're going to have next up Governor Rick Scott will be sharing with me, as well as John Grant IV about his quest to be a Hillsborough County Judge. I'm Bill Bunkley. This is Drive Time. Don't go away. A whole lot more during the second hour.